Well, some of the objections that we'll answer real quickly. One day is 1,000 years. In 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 8, and one day is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day. And they say, all right, now that's the way it is with God. Wait a minute, get it in the context. What's happening? These folks are trying to say that you said that there's going to be a second coming, and everything is continued like it is, and that God hasn't come back yet. And he said, and he points out, wait a minute, you haven't thought about the flood, have you? And so then at one he says, now look, time with God is not going to determine whether he does or does not keep his word. God's going to keep his word if he made it 1,000 years ago, just the same as he did if he made it yesterday. And this is what Peter is saying to them, and that has absolutely nothing to do with the creation. It is just saying that God is reliable, dependable, and as the Apostle Peter said, God is not slack concerning his promises, as men count slackness, but is long-suffering to usward, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. And then secondly, then someone say, well, there's too much activity took place on the sixth day. And if you stop and think about everything that took place on the sixth day, first of all, God made the beast and all of those things. And then God brought all of those, he made Adam. And then he brought all of those things to Adam. Adam then named them. And then after Adam couldn't find a mate, he put Adam to sleep and made Eve. And they said, that's too much. Well, wait a minute. We're dealing with God. We're not dealing with man. God could have made everything in an instant. He didn't have to make it within 6 days. Has it ever dawned on you why God made it in 6 days and rested on the seventh? You ever think about that there's a purpose in that? What about what's your work week? And you looked at it from the idea that, hey, man, God not only is making the world, but he also is putting a pattern for man's work week. Made everything in 6 days, rested on the seventh. So give it some thought on that. And then some of them who want to argue the long time frame are saying that the Sabbath day still exists. The Sabbath never ended. Whoa. Who do you? I mean, do you think I fell off the potato wagon yesterday? You know, wait a minute. How would you say it? And they say, because it never says, and the evening and the morning were the seventh day, and therefore the seventh day still exists. I don't know how you feel. John Clayton was one of the most powerful speakers I've ever heard speak. He had one of the finest programs that he probably still does. But you know what? John Clayton says the seventh day has never ended. And do you believe that? How? Okay, if that's the case now, if the seventh day has never ended, what about those Jews and the rest of the seventh day? There's sort of some thought. Now and then they want to say Genesis 1, Genesis 2 are two different creation. Well, that's not the case. Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 is the same creation. One is dealing with the creation, the other is dealing with the details of the creation. And it is not two different creation things. Now, I tell you what, Gary, let's forget about my PowerPoint because my time has run out. There's a couple of things that I want to add to what we say. Now, you not only have what you call the day-age theory, you have the gap theory. And the gap theory says there was a creation before. And this creation was thousands or millions of years before the creation that's recorded in Genesis chapter 1. And it was during this creation that was before Genesis chapter 1 that man was created, that you have the fall of the devil. Not only do you have the fall of the devil, but you also have the dinosaurs and all of those in there. People who advocate the long days theory and so forth have the dinosaurs living on Earth 60, 65 million years before man. But you know, this is something. If you go in China, I had a privilege to go to China once. And if you go to China, one of the things that you're going to find that is really dominant in China, everything has a dragon painted on it. Where did they get the idea of a dragon? There are stories about dragons throughout the generations of man. And there is no question, and that's one of the evidences that the days are literal 24-hour days is dinosaur and man lived together. I went to Ica, Peru. In Ica, Peru, there was a man by the name of Gabriel who had a museum in Ica, Peru, where he had gone out in the desert of Peru and he had unearthed some ruins of dinosaurs. And some of the things that he had unearthed, so sculptures of dinosaurs and so forth, that he had unearthed, had children playing with them. There have been sketches uncovered in walls of caves and all of dinosaurs. Where did they ever get the idea of a dinosaur? If man never saw a dinosaur, he wouldn't know how to sketch one, would he? So man and dinosaur were created on the sixth day together. They lived together. And so that's evident of a young earth. And so when you have this gap theory that advocates that idea, and then there is a modified gap theory. The modified gap theory is actually a explanation of John Clayton's idea. And the modified gap theory, here's what Brother Clayton says, it initiated the Big Bang theory. And then, not only that, he says the initial creation of God was then that God created the sun and the moon and the earth and the stars and everything. After the initial creation, then gradually God made other things. And then, beginning with day 5, he said God began to make some new things. And then, finally, God made man the spiritual part. Now, what happened then? Why is this? Now, I don't know, and I don't want to impugn anybody's motive. But if you know, Brother Clayton was an atheist. And Brother Clayton is a geologist. He is a science teacher in high school. And so his point was to coincide the two together. And so as a result of it, we must remember, the Bible literally teaches 24-hour day. And the context of Genesis 1, Exodus 11, the genealogies, as we pointed out in Genesis 5 and 11, you have 4,000 years. And now you can go back to the flood and look at the cause of the flood was a universal thing. And then Jesus himself, in Mark chapter 10 and verse 6, pointed out that in the beginning, God created them male and female. In the beginning of the creation. So what did Jesus say? He's saying this idea of these eons of time isn't true. God created man and woman in the beginning of the creation. And therefore the creation is a young earth. It can't be an old earth. And it will be somewhere between 6,000 and 10,000 years old. Thanks for listening to me. I appreciate it.